You can decorate them any way you want. This one was decorated using a screen, spray painting through it, and then some drip paint on the back. Here's one from Australia. This is made out of something called silky oak, and it's what's called a lap joint construction. So the center is glued together. It's actually very light. Nice flyer.
And every one of them, no matter how outlandish, is based on a very complex yet elegantly predictable aerodynamic theory common to all boomerangs.
Gyroscopic precession. Gyroscopic precession is really a combination of lift and spin. Now this is a boomerang that has two wings that are like airplane wings, and they're creating lift. In this case, lift in this direction. And you combine that with the spin, and you have gyroscopic precession. Now, if you remember, the boomerang is not only spinning, but it's moving through the air forward. So what you're getting is each wing, as it comes over the top, we'll call it the 12 o'clock position, is creating more lift than the wing as it goes backwards relative to the direction of flight. So you're getting more force acting up here, more lift. And you would think that would make it just sort of want to fall over, but it's spinning. And since it's spinning, the force up here takes place 90 degrees later, so you get a turn instead of a falling over.
And that's what makes a boomerang come back.
Okay, we're out here in the field. We're going to throw a few boomerangs around. But first, let's talk about the boomerang. You can throw the boomerang from either end. Doesn't matter that much. I prefer throwing it from this end. You can hold it with a pinch grip like that, or sort of a semi-full hand grip, but you don't ever grip it like that. It's more of a finesse thing like that. And when you throw a boomerang, you don't throw it sideways like a frisbee. You throw it almost straight over the top, like an overhand tennis serve or a baseball throw. And when you throw, you have to throw the right direction to the wind. And if you look, the wind direction is sort of like that, and a right-handed person would throw to the right of the wind, and a left-handed person would throw to the left of the wind. And there are right and left-handed boomerangs. But this is a right-handed, and I'm right-handed, so let's give it a throw.
The boomerang gods are with the Americans.
Known to his teammates as the Wizard of Rang, Darnell travels to as many as 10 international boomerang tournaments a year. The 1988 Australian World Cup represented one of Team USA's and Eric's personal best performances to date.
It's always a thrill to be in an international competition, and being at the World Cup in '88 in Australia was really exciting because this is the first time that 7 countries had come together to compete.
The typical tournament is broken into a number of specific events requiring having as many as 50 boomerangs on hand.
This is a boomerang that I use for consecutive catch, which is catches of increasing difficulty, where you catch with 2 hands and then you catch clean with 1 hand, clean with the other hand, behind your back, under your leg, and then with your feet. And that gets pretty tricky if the wind is really strong. So if it's windy, then I'll use one that has weights attached as well, and that makes it much easier to handle. Another event is doubling, where you're throwing 2 boomerangs that are very different, and they're designed to follow roughly the same path and arrive back at the same point.
Tournament competition consists of a dozen events, but it all boils down to accuracy as a sum of technique, technology, and the ability to read and play the conditions.
Another event is Australian Round, and depending on the conditions, you use very different boomerangs. Here's one that's for no-wind conditions, and it has no weights and has little holes, which help bring it back. Here's one that has 3 weights, has more range, it can handle more wind. And if it gets really windy, then you go to one that has slots and weights, and this will go about 40 meters in a very high wind, like 30-mile-an-hour wind or so.
Two members of the American team vying for the Australian Cup are outstanding athletes. Captain Chet Snaufer and Barnaby Rue will score high by making the tough catches. Eric will prevail with his sheer technical finesse and a bit of luck.
And we were really lucky. In the first day, the U.S. team won all of the events, and so we got a sizable lead. And the second day, we hung onto that lead, and the third day, we kind of walked away with it. And it was a surprise to us as much as anybody else, because we know the Aussies are always tough.
Presented to the United States of America.
But one of the greatest thrills to me of being there was meeting and spending time and throwing with an Aboriginal thrower named Bluey Roberts. And actually the first time I saw him throwing, he was throwing one of my boomerangs. We came out to practice one day, and there he was. It was really a windy day, and he was throwing one of my red plastic boomerangs with slots in it. And I was just sort of dumbstruck. I couldn't believe it. And I went over and introduced myself, and he was very friendly and very outgoing. He says, "Oh yeah, bloody good rang that." He says, "I use it when it's windy. It's great. It's great."
That looks good.
Yeah. Here's a man that has a 10,000-year heritage. It's in his blood, and he's been throwing boomerangs all his life, and I've been only making boomerangs for 33 years. We got to throw each other's boomerangs and talk a bit, and it really was just, I think that was the greatest thrill to me, to be there.
There's a kind of poetic justice at work when a simple throwing stick can evoke so much pleasure and excitement and even form the centerpiece of a man's career.
I've really enjoyed the traveling I've done, meeting new people and sharing the thrill of the boomerang flight with them. But when it comes right down to it, there's nothing quite as satisfying as just going out back, going in my backyard and taking one more throw. It's just closest thing I know to magic.